How many more times can she go through a number one contenders match? If she goes into this match and loses, holy smokes, I am going to feel like Santana Garrett is the biggest. If I can borrow a line from Charlemagne the God, I would apply. She gets the donkey of the day. She would get the donkey of the month if she goes into that match and loses.
Not able to execute on the move is the Colombian goat. And look at this, Nigel. Abilene Maverick grabs the wrist of Santana Garrett. The crowd booing, not in appreciation of that.
That spinning, swinging neckbreaker was such for loss.
I'll be damned.
You know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
And it is for the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
The World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion of the world.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling Podcast. This is your host, Mr. Green, and what you heard at the beginning of the show was actually a segment that I was going to do in the previous podcast because it would have been more appropriate for that one after we saw Santana Garrett lose. However, because that episode was so bad to me and I just wanted to get it over with and get it out of the way, I just didn't even bother trying to put together some opening bit or stringing together something to make the point as I did here. But since I was now out of that, had more time, and I had a chance to kind of just breathe a little bit from the previous episode of WoW, I was like, all right, well, I'll just stick it in here. You know, even though it is not relative to what it goes on in this particular episode of WoW, why not? Let's put it in there. I hope everyone is enjoying their week and all the wrestling that has been coming down in recent days. And there has been a lot of it, a lot of wrestling news and things just going on across the world. Companies being bought, partnerships being formed, people leaving indies, people joining the indies. And somehow through all of that, WoW just kind of seems to exist in a universe all its own. It's amazing how that will occur, I guess, when you've taped your entire year inside of a month or so. But we are going to go and review the most recent episode as of this recording, of course. The most recent episode of WoW and talk about what was good and bad and so on and so forth. Not as egregious as the previous week. I will say that, at least in my opinion. Not as bad as the previous week's worth of WoW Pro. That one just upset me. I was like, this is just beyond ridiculous, and I don't know what they're planning on getting out of any of this nonsense, but but this one, it has some fair points. It had its down points. Of course, we'll get off into that. But before we go off into talking about the episode in and of itself, let us go and talk about a few things that's going on in the world of women's wrestling. And, if you've listened to this for any particular amount of time, you know that is where I place the news, views, and updates. So here we go. And the first thing being, I don't recall whether I had said that it was official or not, but I think it's fair to say at this point that WWE's Evolution pay-per-view is officially returning. If I'd never said it before, I'm saying it now. It was all rumor and conjecture beforehand. Now it is official. They are going to bring the Evolution PLE, can't say pay-per-view anymore, but Premium Live Event back. This is an official return after 7 years of being on hiatus. I honestly don't know why they took so long, especially in this particular day and age. I don't know whether it's a case of, the demand wasn't there or whatever, however they choose to define it. But let's be honest, WWE is not in the same economic structure as they were certainly not 20 plus years ago. 7 years ago, they've had a big change. Now it is, I'm not even sure if they even concerned with how much, I'm not going to say they don't concern about the tickets. I probably shouldn't put it that way, but it is not as much as a big issue as it had been in the past. We'll put it that way. Today, well, they got TV rights deals. They have streaming deals and things like that. If that event didn't sell a single ticket, it is not going to put the WWE out of business. However, we know that is not the case. The WWE is selling all their events. I mean, they are selling something serious. So much to the point that they're pricing people out. I looked at the Evolution ticket sales. And let me just start with this. It's in my backyard. Evolution will take place on July 13th at State Farm Arena, Atlanta, Georgia. That is probably about 20 minutes away from me. Not long of a drive at all. This will be a part of a weekend package deal. They'll be doing another Saturday night's main event, and then that'll roll into Evolution, and you can buy them in a combo if you choose to. However, I wanted to see what the ticket prices were just for Evolution on its own. And on the low end of getting the tickets, we talk about this is in the nosebleeds. This is the highest point in the arena. $218. That is the lowest, cheapest ticket that I have found for this event right now. That's nosebleed territory. The high end, getting down near front row, the aisleway where they're going to enter, where you could potentially reach out and touch their hands and so on and so forth. $2,736. I will repeat, $2,736. That is the highest ticket price that I have found for Evolution at this event. And I can tell you right now that I have no intentions of buying a ticket to go to this thing. People were concerned about being priced out of WWE. I am priced out of WWE. I'm not paying $200 to go sit way up in the goddamn rafters. And I'm certainly don't have nearly $3,000 just for a ticket alone. That's the ticket alone. That's not counting you getting there. That's not food. That's not merch. That's none of that. That's just the ticket for one person. What are you going to do if you got a family of 4 that you're trying to get in there? Holy smokes. And they almost sold out. As far as StubHub is concerned, they only got 1% of the tickets available for the entire arena. So they are selling it. They're just not pricing it to average people like you and me. That's all. They have moved on. And as such, even though I enjoy the product at times on TV, I am certainly have no desire, and I'm not going to even attempt until you get into that. Moving on, the WWE's Evolution. Now I sound like the song. Let me rephrase. WWE's Evolve is what I was trying to get out. They finally crowned their first ever WWE Evolve Women's Champion, that being Kaylee Armstrong. She is the first on the most recent episode of, again, as of this recording, most recent episode of Evolve saw her win a fatal 4-way where she defeated Kylie Ray, Wendy Chu, and Kendall Gray. Natalya was there to present the championship to the eventual winner, Ms. Armstrong, who would snatch the championship belt out of Natalya's hands. Which I can only imagine that this may lead towards Natalya wrestling against Armstrong at some point, which I guess is part of the course for Natalya at this point. She has, by her own admission, said Natalya elevates. And this may be another one of those cases where she goes down to Evolve and elevates. If you haven't watched it yet, it is on Tubi TV. It is for free. Also, along with that on Tubi TV, you have the collection of NXT. If you are an NXT fan, if you want to go back and watch the gold and black era where it really started kicking off, those are in there. But Evolve airs on Tubi on a week-to-week basis, and it is very much like the WWE's version of an independent show. It's pretty bare bones, not a huge crowd. If they didn't have that giant LED screen there, you could legitimately believe that this is just some random indie. You know, that other than the WWE logo and the big LED screen, which you know it costs some money. Other than that, it's like almost every other studio indie show I've ever seen. Not that this is in my notes. I'm just thinking about it now as I talked about Natalya. We had seen Natty Neidhart go after the NWA Women's Championship not all that long ago against Kylie Ray. No, Kylie Ray. Kenzie Page. Kenzie Page. Let me get the names right. Page retained. That's good for her. I made it clear if it were me, that is not something that I would have done. Nothing against Ms. Page, mind you. But my reasons for being were exactly what I said before. My opinion has not changed. I think she has done everything that she can do with the championship. I don't believe that she has anything else to offer the NWA Women's World title. Especially not in the sense of, okay, we're going to get some attention on this, or we're going to, bring this up some, or help raise the profile, or however you choose to put it. She's had it for, 2 years now? So I don't know if this is necessarily the choice that they need. Now, that's not to say that it might have been Natty. She might have said, hey, I'll put her over. But if I'm Billy Corgan, if I ran the NWA, I would be begging her, even if she had to turn it around inside of a week and lose it. Just win the title. We can get it off the page and put it on somebody else. But that's neither here nor there. It's past tense. Also, by the way, it apparently, some people wanted to know about the former Tonga twins, now known as the Island Twins. I don't know why on earth they went around as the Tonga twins past WoW in the first place, but hey, that's their choice. Anyhow, but some people wondered about them because they were announced as being part of the NWA Crockett Cup 2025, and they were there, and they took on TVMA, which is Tiffany Neves. I probably pronounced her name wrong, and Valentina Rossi. That being Adrianna Gambino and WoW, and They won. TVMA defeated the Island Twins along with Miss Star in this particular match. No time limit was applied to that, but I will be looking for that match just so I can see how well the Island Twins performed and whether or not this women's division that is, I guess, percolating and the NWA is going anywhere. I've tried to look at some of their stuff and it just, it's a little rough sometimes. And I honestly question, I was like, between the NWA in its current form and WOW, is that something that I want to watch on anybody's fast channel? Time will tell. Moving on. That was just a little sidebar. Abaddon has confirmed that she is no longer part of AEW. I don't know whether that was a big news or not. I think that most of us were pretty aware that Abaddon had been released, and I mean, no one's looking for her to be like, thank goodness she's gone. No, I mean, nobody's looking for that, but at the same time, she's probably a prime example of being put in a platform that she wasn't ready for. Abaddon, to the best of my knowledge, before she got signed, might have had a year and a half, possibly 2. I mean, and I'm really stretching to say possibly 2 years worth of work underneath her before she got that. Now, every so often you get somebody that's just a natural and they're so good, and even though they don't have the experience underneath them, they just like, look, that you need to do something with them, and they can pick it up as they go. Some people are just that good at it. I don't know if she was ready for this. She came off to me as the gimmick exceeded her in-ring work. Not saying that she was terrible, but it was like they hired her just on the basis of her being Abaddon. But she also put out a tweet. Is that what we still call him, a tweet, since it's on X? But she put this out. My time with AEW is coming to an end. My contract expires in June, and I will not be renewed. The emotions I'm currently trying to manage are incredibly difficult and full of conflict as I reflect on my time there. My goal is not to let this be the end for me because I love wrestling too much to just stop. I put in a lot of hard work that I will now be able to showcase more often. While my heart is currently broken, you can bet that I'm still going to show up for training next week. If you are looking to book me, please send an email to bookabaddonhere@gmail.com. Thank you. So I'm glad that she is still going to keep this going. I'm glad that she's still going to pursue her dream of being a professional wrestler. But this is kind of, it's a cautionary tale. It's like, what do you do in this situation? How do you turn down somebody that's offering you probably 6 figures just to be there? And I said in some previous podcasts when she showed up, it's like they dug her out of her grave for the inevitable Halloween match that they're going to do, and then they just send her back down to wherever she was doing. They never did much with Abaddon. It was like we hired her, but we didn't have a plan. We had no desire, no goal in mind. It was just, yay, we have her. And the cautionary tale here being is like, too much too soon can hurt. I'm sure her bank account feels far better for being there. But having a career may circumvent that sometimes. Like, how much time are you able to give? How much time can you waste in a company that's not doing anything with you, or a company that's not doing the right things with you according to what you want, according to your goals, your aspirations? She could have very well have just been happy just to come up and work a match once in a year. That's very possible. But it sounds as if she had other goals. It sounds as if she had other aspirations. It sounds as if she wanted to do more. AEW just wasn't the place for that. So hopefully when she goes back, towards the indies or possibly be picked up by some other promotion, maybe MLW, maybe TNA, who knows. Hopefully when that takes place, she will be able to find her footing. Find out a good way to present who Abaddon is. Find somebody that can meet her vision halfway and they can come up with some astounding way to present her to the public to where she is a money draw, where she is something, must see TV on whatever program she happens to land on. But unfortunately at this point, she's going to have to go through a little bit of a rebuilding process. And all I can say is I wish her the best on that. I don't know if the WWE is what she would need at this point. But she certainly needs to discover who Abaddon is aside from just the look, in my opinion. Speaking of the indies, Casey Catanzaro. That was the name that I couldn't remember the other day when I was doing the podcast. And I was like, what the hell is her name? I was trying to think of what her actual name was outside of WWE. Of course, they trimmed it down to something a little bit more worldly. Let's call it Katana Chance. The KC connection, I guess. Katana Chance and Kaden Carter. It's kind of just got it all blended in together. But she has gone onto a podcast and she's talked about the potential that she has to do other things. In a nutshell, she basically was saying that this is the first time in her life that she's not really had something in front of her. And I'm paraphrasing when I say this because she had a long statement. I'm not going to read the entire thing. But she talked about she had done gymnastics her whole life. She had a scholarship for gymnastics. And back when she was doing it, she didn't get money for that. She was just happy for the scholarship. She did 4 years of that. Then she graduated. She did 5 seasons of American Ninja. Then when she went past that, she went to WWE. So this is the first time in a long time where it's something not directly in front of her that she's ready to do. But the ultimate point of this is that apparently, at least that's how this podcast and how this article is presenting it, that she's open to the potential of doing something on the indies. Now, I don't know if she actually said that because I didn't listen to the entire podcast. I read the transcripts that were available. And then I did not see the words like, I'm open to running on the indies. I did not see that. I did see that she, she is potential to, she has potential to show up in wrestling. Let's put it that way. This part I will read. So she was asked whether she would return to American Ninja Warrior or continue with wrestling. Her response was this: those are both very good questions. My answer to both of them is possible, definitely possible. It's definitely on my mind that I'm looking for. I just need to decide what my first step is going to be. I know that I have more potential in both of those avenues. I know that when it comes to American Ninja Warrior, when I did leave, it was for a good reason. But I know there are more things I wanted to do or was capable of. When it comes to wrestling, I'm very grateful for my time there, and I also feel the same way where I know there are things that I'm capable of and there's potential that I wasn't able to show. That's hard to walk away from. In both of those avenues, I feel that way. I know that this can be explored further, and I know that I have the potential to do a lot more. I just need to take time to choose what that is going to be. I don't know yet, and that's kind of great. So there you have, Catanzaro has not closed the door on pro wrestling. But the title there, like, oh, she's possible to an indie run. I was like that. I don't know if that necessarily means an indie run based on what I just read. And she could be signed up to another wrestling show for all I know. It's not like AEW's off the table. They may approach her and be like, hey, come in over here. TNA, also not necessarily not an indie. You have TV. So it could be that. She could be open to doing more wrestling, not necessarily indies. However, and I always say that because I would find it hard to believe that most indies would be able to afford her. See, this is just my guess. I have nothing to base this on. Take this with a grain of salt. But I do think that Catanzaro is probably not going to be your average indie. Like, oh yeah, well, give me $250 and I'll be there. Just because of her status on American Ninja Warrior and the WWE following that. I wouldn't think that she would price herself out of wrestling necessarily, but how many of those wrestling promotions out there would be able to afford a Casey Catanzaro? Time will tell. If I am a promotion that can afford to have them, I would be looking to try to get both of them in there, Catanzaro and Lane. The former, what was her name? The former Kaden Carter. But between Lacey Lane and Catanzaro, I thought they had good chemistry together. It's a shame that women's wrestling in a tag team sense has not really ever been a high priority. Because if I was looking to build it, I could probably build a company around those two. I would just need to find a good complementary rival to them to where you could get some good matches and build a division. Now, tag team divisions are not an easy thing to do. It's especially in this time and with women's wrestling, because not many of them stay together for that. They're together long enough to be on TV and win the titles possibly, but outside of that, then it's pretty much done. And how many places really have them? Thinking, the NWA has a women's tag team division. TNA has a tag team division. Reality Wrestling has a women's tag team division. Of course, the WWE. But that's not going to happen, at least not at the time being. So you have a couple of those things. You have a few outlets, but that's what it is. It's a few. And they probably need more than that. But if I were one of those places and I were looking to build it out, that would be a team that I would reach out to, assuming that they wanted to do it. Hollywood Haley J, the current HollySwag on Wow's television, has signed to compete, believe it or not, at Power Slap 13. At least that is what was reported or posted on Instagram not all that long ago. Power Slap 13. That is going to be on June 27th. Now, I like Haley J. I think that she's a talented young lady. I don't know if I want to see her doing this. I am not really sure that I want to see her doing this. I've watched Power Slap a few times. I've not looked at it a bunch. I've not seen, I would say, more than maybe 5 events on Power Slap. The times that I've seen it, I've seen people just get knocked out when they bring that slap across their head. And at the time, it didn't look like they really had much of a weight class or division or something like that. Although, when I read this, it made it sound like there was some level of weight class applied. So, if that is the case, then it may be okay. But if they're just sitting people in front of each other like, smack me in the face as hard as you can, I don't know if I want to see her do that. If I was, let's call it for what it is. If I'm I'm not sure if I would want her to be on TV doing that. Now, it's not that they have much of a choice, because if she ain't doing it, they would have to pay her not to, or something like that, or at least get her contractually obligated. But she is signed in to do this now. I hope she does well. I hope she does well, and I hope they're paying her well to do it. That would probably be the best that I could put out for it. So good luck to Hollywood Haley J, competing at Power Slap. She's been a lot of different places lately. Reality Wrestling, NWA, a couple other indies, and now she's doing this. So she's making the rounds. Certainly making some money. Whether this will be a good thing for her, only time will tell. And I wanted to bring up and point out, I saw Simone Williams on Instagram post a match that she had with a masked young lady out at, I guess, one of the Santino Brothers events. The 30 seconds of Instagram footage that I saw her doing was more interesting than anything I've seen Princess Ozzy do all year. And I needed to be able to say that. It is, I don't want to say a night and day difference, but there's a difference between Princess Ozzy and Simone Williams. It looks like she embraces being a heel. It looks like she has more personality being a heel, or being Simone Williams, for that matter. And never mind the fact that the person that she's wrestling on her Instagram shows her face constantly. I mean, the initial shock isn't the right word, but the initial reaction that I got was like, oh man, she got the mask off and what is potentially lucha territory. I mean, that's good heat. Like here, that would be the equivalent of her if she had that same match in like a North Georgia area. Well, not North Georgia, but like north of Atlanta, where the populace is a little bit more Latino, and the wrestling events up there are more lucha based. Like there, that I could see how that would get some heat. So if that was a similar environment, absolutely. And I loved it. I loved it. I love that she is, the polar opposite of the generic babyface that she's in WoW. Like, I don't know why it is that every babyface in WoW, short of Jesse Jones and Big Rig Betty, I don't know why all of them have to be like generic babyface 1, 2, and 3, but that they're able to show a different side of themselves beyond the veil of WoW's environment. And it was fun to see her doing something different. I can only hope that it continues on. I can only hope that she is able to show more of that. I'm not going to hold my breath that she's going to do that within WoW. I think that outside of it, she's got a shot. And I'm pulling for you. That's all I can say. I'm going to be pulling for you. That hopefully the world will be able to see what the people at that particular event, the people that caught this on Instagram, have already seen. So there we have most of the news. A quick mention that Shotzi Blackheart is announced for Game Changer Wrestling Japan tour. So good on her. She's already getting herself prepared, as are other people who have left the WWE, including Priscilla Kelly. She's apparently going to be at the Game Changer Wrestling Coney Island event. That is the update as it is currently. But seeing seeing that Blackheart is moving on and keeping herself busy, Good on her. Good on her. And these event dates are July 28th, 29th, and 30th. That'll be at Shinjuku Face, Tokyo Square, and Kurigan Hall. All of which apparently will be available to watch on Triller TV. So, now that we've covered those things, I'm going to take this moment. As you may know, I like to try to give YouTube and its algorithm a little chance to place whatever commercials it's going to do. So for those of you that are listening solely on the audio form of this, I apologize because it sometimes goes off like just blank space, but that's why it's there. But I've also begun instituting another segment called Talking the Talk. It's where I kind of scour around the internet and whatnot to try to find some promos that I feel like should be spotlighted, or whether that be I just like the promo or it's coming from somebody who doesn't get a lot of coverage, but they did good work trying to get their personality over and whatnot. So I'm going to try to do this. I can't say that it's going to go forever, but we're going to try. We're going to try to find some good promos and share it with people. Hopefully this thing can keep moving along. And maybe it can help introduce you to some names every once in a while, or at least get you a promo that you hadn't heard here and there. So as we take this little break, take a moment, take a listen to this while we take our little break. And when we come back, then we'll go into the review. But stay tuned. Talking the Talk is next.
Why, hello there. It is the center of attention, your future Legends Women's Champion, Brittnie Brooks, here to tell you to tune in to FSW tonight because I have some choice words for Gypsy Mac as your #1 contender for the FSW Women's Championship. So make sure you're watching. Why? Because it's Brittnie, bitch.
It's me, your Ironheart Pro Women's Champion, Aminah Belmont. Heather Monroe. Welcome back. For those of you who don't know, last time Heather and I went one-on-one, I tapped her out. And then she tucked her tail between her legs and ran away, married Homelander, and was never to be seen again. Until March 15th, where she makes her comeback. Woo, woo, comeback. Woo, woo. I know they say there's nothing better than a comeback. And normally they would be right, but I'm the Phoenix Princess, Aminah Belmont, and I'm not normal. So your comeback becomes a footnote in my illustrious reign as your Ironheart Pro Women's Champion. Don't get comfortable, love, because you won't be staying very long. And I will use you as an example to show that nothing matters. B-A-B. Before Aminah Belmont. See you then.
And we're back. And it's time to go into the full review of the latest episode of WoW, the latest one that aired at least. And the opening slate of that episode is going to be episode 337, season 3, episode 37, titled Twin vs. Twin. The air date, May the 24th, the chronological number 141. Now, before I go off into the review in and of itself, this is probably the second time that WoW has trimmed their showdown from 4 matches to 3. The first time, I can't remember the episode number, but there was the match that was advertised, as far as the press release was concerned at least, was Siren and Miranda Mirage against Big Rigs and Bourbon. That match never aired. And in this particular instance, and you may have seen it on the poll, because, you know, when I put the poll up on the channel, I am basing it on the information that is sent to me, not what is aired. And in that last press release, it appears that the Animal Instinct match, where they were taking on, or at least in some form of rematch against Tiki Chamorro and Kalaki the Island Girl, appears that that match got pulled also. So, you know, make of that what you will. But that was advertised. Well, I say advertised. It was written into the preview or the press release, and it did not air. What we got were the other 3 out of the 4, that being Brat Pack, Big Rigs and Bourbon, Genesis, Scout Parker, and of course the main event. So just wanted to put that out there, that even though you may have gone to our channel and gone to the post tab on the channel, you might on at least 2 of those posts see matches that you never saw. That is why. Apparently, some of those matches have just not made air. There's no other explanation I have beyond that. However, this match opens with a shot of LA and transitions into the crowd at WoW. We get Nigel doing the voiceover and get, I guess, a nice close-up of some of the people who are attendees of the WoW program. The first segment, also first match, is the Brat Pack being accompanied by Reina Del Rey and Adrianna Gambino taking on Big Rigs and Bourbon. And you would probably got exactly what you thought you were going to get out of this match. It's not as if the match was bad. Most of this match is actually very good. I would say it's probably a better, easier to watch match than the main event. However, the Brat Pack has not been presented as a comparable team throughout most of their tenure in WoW. So whereas you could expect a good match out of them, and I did expect a good match, especially considering that it was, you know, all 4 competitors that was taking place in it, the end result was never in doubt. It was never in doubt that the Brat Pack was going to lose. The Brat Pack also coming out there pretty much encourages the fake fans in the front row to start doing some stuff and overact and act like they're just jamming out to a theme song and whatnot. I was like, yeah, sure you are. Tell me another one. And that's what I'm just going to narrow them down to at this point. It's like just fake fans. But once they come out, then we get the entrance of Big Rigs and Bourbon. There are a few times when I say the B-roll for the competitors coming out works. Coming out for the Alliance, sure. Everything is updated there. Not so sure about Big Rigs and Bourbon. I think at this point they can drop the video of Big Rig Betty getting out of the truck. I mean, she's not really pushing I'm a big truck driver and I just wrestle on the weekends. Not that she's ever said that. That's just the vibe that she gave off at the time. So I think they could do without that. But that's not a big issue. I'm just saying that. Just my own personal opinion. So they come down. Heels first, babyface is second. And you know what happened when the heels came out there? I'm sure I know this is going to be a shock, but Adrianna Gambino walked over there to the commentating booth and sat down and started talking to Dave McClain. Yeah, I know. I can't believe that would happen for this time. Who would ever figure that she would do this? It is so absurd at this point. I mean, it is beyond absurd that at no time does she even attempt to be a manager at ringside. It is straight to the commentary booth. I mean, my gosh. Every once in a while, they could have at least had her pretend to be a manager and stand out there at ringside and act like she cared about who won and lost. This faction has been buried. And I don't use that term loosely. I try not to toss it around because losing here and there, like a lot of people are like, man, they're burying them. No, a loss does not necessarily mean you're buried. But I can't see how anybody can look at these four and see anything different than that. There's no upward momentum for them. They always lose. The manager doesn't even give them the time of day. They're losing even when the odds are stacked in their favor. Competitive maybe, but they just have no win-loss record whatsoever. This probably would have been accepted a lot easier had the Brat Pack had some kind of credibility walking into this, but they just don't. They just do not. And it is the worst part of this is that the Gambino situation. Because I know she ain't got no control over that. I know she has no control over that. But why on earth would anybody in management look at that and think that this is a good idea? Once or twice, maybe. Here and there. Okay, she's just coming out at ringside to give us some talk. But especially when it's a team that is looked at as being highly competitive, why would you not be there? They're the former tag team champions. Why would she not want to be at ringside to try and help them win? Regardless of whether Del Rey is there or not. So, I don't know. And then we got the opening rap like we normally do with BK Rhythm, who's, all well and good. That's fine, but it's not going anywhere. At this point, it's just part of the shtick. It's not building the team. It's not getting them over. It's just something that they do because they are supposed to do it. Which is another reason like this audience does not care. It doesn't mean anything for them. It's not doing anything for the audience at home. And for the people that constantly get on WOW's social media pages, wherever those may be, well, everything that WOW does is good for them. Everything that WOW, this is great. This is a fire match. This is fantastic. This is the best match I've ever seen. Like that, there's nothing that WOW can do that is going to upset them. And yeah, you don't want to crap on that audience, but they do need to be trying to get other people to tune into this show. But anyhow, all of that aside, getting past the fact that Gambino's out there in the commentating booth and not paying attention, talking about everything else that Dave McClain wants to talk about, getting past that, the match in and of itself isn't bad. They start out pretty good. You got a nice exchange with Big Rig Betty and Gianni. Big Rigs and Bourbon in this particular match looked like they were having fun, particularly when it started. They looked like they were just enjoying themselves. And I'm glad to see that they just didn't dry up and wash away because they lost the tag team titles. Like, they're still a tag team and they're still competing. So, that much I am appreciative. And also, I have to bring up that one of my co-workers, this one, not Maestro, he has brought up some stuff recently, but most of which is him nitpicking and thinking everything is wrong. But this particular one who is a genuine wrestling fan and had several comments / questions throughout the course of this episode, and we'll get to those as we go forward. He did mention one thing that I thought was, pretty nice as far as Big Rigs and Bourbon is concerned. Like, having Big Rig Betty join Jesse Jones did wonders for her. In much the same way as HollySwag joining the Fab Four did wonders for her. It took them out of the cartoon gimmick. Yes, Big Rig Betty still has a vest with her name on it. Yeah, she still has shorts that say Mother Truckers. But she's not actively pushing this gimmick and going honk honk and all that other crap. So, there is something that she is a wrestler who happens to have gear that is complementary to her partner. And that was appreciated. He didn't necessarily like the Brat Pack. He's like, I don't like this team. They don't have any matching gear. I am not as hard pressed about a team that doesn't have matching gear as he does. As you may have heard many times, I like the Brat Pack. I enjoy them as a team. They just do not get anywhere in this company. I am really of the mindset that they should just get out of there if they had any aspirations of being the top team anywhere. But then again, where would they go? So anyhow, the match is there's nothing really on the line here. It's just a nice match to have and enjoy, and you can watch and see these ladies do their thing. But there's nothing on the line here. There's no, all right, we're going for a title shot. There's no rivalry. There's no animosity. There's none of that stuff exists in this match. So you just have to take the match for what the match is. And the baby faces here, Big Rigs and Bourbon, are pretty well in control up until we get the moment where Del Rey pulls the rope down and causes Jesse Jones to go out and hit the floor. Now, that's all well and fine. And for the most part, the timing is good. And other than, I think, when BK Rhythm gets snap married and Jesse Jones takes her time to give her a kick in the back. Other than that, I'm like, it's not a lot of wasted motion that I can recall. But they were easily in control. It was like a standard old school wrestling match. Imagine that. I mean, the babyfaces were taking control and managing to keep this thing under control up until the heels, out of desperation, had to do something to cheat. Del Rey might as well just be their manager, or at least bodyguard or something. Adrianna Gambino is just a non-factor in this entire thing. Also, that once the heels took control, the tandem gutbuster move didn't come off well, but good on the commentators that they actually called that. Like, well, it just didn't go quite as smoothly as they would have normally had. But the heels look good. Didn't necessarily care for the cheating spot where she being BK Rhythm going for what was it? Why did I drop out? Abdominal stretch. Good Lord. I just lost that all completely. But I didn't necessarily care for the abdominal stretch spot where, Gambino is, not Gambino, Gianni. Too many G's. Where Gianni is like in the middle of the ring and she's helping her out. I would have preferred that been in the corner, but that's me nitpicking, and I can admit that I'm nitpicking there. Getting towards the end, Because that's the important part here. Because whatever else took place in the course of this, enjoyable, but not something that's crazy important here. You get a couple of spots where, Jessie Jones, being the anti-hero that she is, she grabs the hair of BK Rhythm when Rhythm turns her back. Gianni sees that, grabs the hair of Jones, makes sure she's not going anywhere. They got some good double teaming, which I enjoyed that little exchange of the elbow, the clothesline, the elbow. I like that little ping pong action that they do with Jones. But all good things for the Brat Pack must come to an end. And as I said a couple of podcasts ago when I said, Big Rig Betty looks like she is well motivated to get in there and do some stuff. Well, this is another one of those cases. She looked like she was well motivated. Came in there, does the cleanup. Gianni gets the tag, and she runs right into a clothesline, an elbow, and of course, the whole deal that Big Rig Betty likes to do, the ripcord clothesline. She was just in control. And then does a quick smacking on BK Rhythm as well, including the super kick. They had this thing took care of. Del Rey tries to get up and have some words, but Jones rushes in and charges Del Rey down. And then we get, I don't know what they call their finish, but it was like a side rush leg sweep with a clothesline combination. 1, 2, 3, Gianni goes down, that's it. As I said, nothing that you didn't expect to happen. It's a fine match, and you need a match like that on the shows. I just wish that every so often the Brat Pack could get something going for themselves. But I think that train is long gone, and I don't know if it's coming back. Del Rey at the end of the match tries to jump in and get the baby faces, but they hook her up in like a double wrist lock, and it gets a little confusing there for a second. But the end result of it is that they catch with some double elbows, and then they drop the double elbow on the mat. And once they do that, Del Rey rolls out, and that's that. Match is over with. Somewhere during the course of this, you hear McClain like, "Hey, do you promise that Del Rey and so won't interfere?" And I'd like to. Just stuff that really has nothing to do with anything. It seems like he's the only one that's concerned about the Alliance doing stuff. But like I said, that faction is buried. It is just buried. And I don't even like using it, but I just don't see any other way for them. They ain't getting no trios titles so long as Top Tier holds them. Maybe they'll lose it this weekend coming up. Maybe. They're not going after the tag team championships because that pretty much rotates around Miami Sweet Heat and whomever else happens to be in their orbit. And they don't have any significant feuds, and they haven't won any significant feuds. So I don't know. Doesn't seem like the Alliance has much upward momentum. And considering that I just saw Gambino under a different name in the NWA, who knows where that's going? Next segment is a promo for the main event. Talk about Lindsey and Laurie Carlson. Good for them. Segment after that, we see HollySwag hyping up Lindsey and Laurie being hyped up by Pink. I know what the narrative that Wild was going for, but I wrote down, why would the Carlsons believe any of this? And when did Pink become good with manipulating her stablemates? Like, that part is still up in the air. Did it seem okay? I suppose so. But at what point did she just suddenly decide that I'm perfectly fine trying to manipulate these two into beating each other up? Beforehand, it was just HollySwag. And then as Miami Sweet Heat tried to attack them, they get the advice from their, quote, manager, Lana Starr, like, well, in order for the good of the group, y'all have to wrestle each other. Which didn't make any sense then. I questioned it at that time. I was like, why were they even in the same room with each other? Aren't they having beef? This felt like it could have just been the issue amongst the teams. That's where the heat was. But then they decided to take this little deviation, this left turn at Albuquerque, and then, all right, well, let's get the twins against each other. And that appears to be the only selling point of this match, is that is, well, for the first time ever, it's twin versus twin. All right, big deal. I'm sure somebody at home was getting off on that, but still, big deal. Following this, because we can go off into the twin versus twin and the quote manipulation when we get to the main event. Following this is Genesis versus Scout Parker. Dave McClain tries to explain that Genesis wasn't pinned, but it wasn't determined who pinned her in the triple threat. I wrote down, what is he talking about? No, she wasn't pinned. And it wasn't even in the debate that she got pinned. She was tapped out. It was a submission lock by two different people, so it shouldn't have gone anywhere in the first place, but still. The commentators are still selling the idea that Genesis wants a title shot. I was like, why are we doing this? Now, if we just take it for the merit of the match, take away storyline, take away the angle, take away whatever it is that they're trying to apply. If we're just going on the merit of the match, I enjoyed the match. In fact, a portion of Genesis' promo, not the whole thing, but a portion of her promo following the match, I thought worked out well also. But they are still lingering on this idea of I got screwed on the title. I mean, come on. So anyhow, Scout Parker, well, Genesis comes out first, and she does her nunchuck thing. I don't know why she keeps doing it. She never uses those things. I mean, yeah, it's impressive, and it's nice for show, but she had been a heel for a long enough period of time to where she could have used that to get a win or cheat or something, that by now it's never even come close to that. So I don't know. I mean, I'm just not particularly a fan of carrying gimmicks around that are never put into play at any point. But Scout comes out, and I do like that they reference that there is a history between them, considering that Scout Parker was a former stablemate of Genesis, although be it in a different persona, when she was ice cold. Side note, is it me or is it has Scout Parker filled out since ice cold? I mean, she's not a big girl or nothing like that. It just seems like the Scout Parker gear is more complimentary. She didn't look quite as thin in that. That like I said, just a side note. And I still like Scout. And I mean, yes, she does have these moments where she always looks like she's about to break out and start laughing in the middle of a match. I wish she would work on that. But I still like her. I still think there's some, upside to her if she were treated well and pushed well and probably trained better outside of a WoW environment. Because we still haven't heard her do a promo, talk about why or how or anything that would give you any sort of inclination as to who Scout Parker is, other than, the fact that McLean and, Zane will bring it up every once in a while, but that's pretty much it. But she does a good job here. I mean, I think she works really hard, but fairness to the situation, I think Genesis does as well. And as stated earlier, having some sort of relation between the two of them, I think, did help. Even though it's a cold match, it was something that could be called out at the end of it. But what I do question here is, is this a heel versus heel match? Why are we having this? They tend to do this quite a bit. Is almost every week it feels like there's been some level of heel versus heel match weekly. Are you that short on baby faces that you can't do, without having that? And I'm starting to believe that the answer is yes, they just don't have them. So, I mean, where are the baby faces here? And maybe it's a case of Parker and Genesis having more chemistry with each other, but like the little low hurricanrana that Scott Parker does when their opponent's on her knees. The last time we saw that, I think it was with Santana Garrett, and it didn't go over too well. Here, it was pretty smooth. She sets Genesis up, runs off into the ropes, comes back, hooks it in, and swings it over. I mean, it looked pretty good right there. And if she caught that thing like that with most people all the time, I'm like, yeah, all right, then keep going. I just concerned for her health and well-being, the last time we saw it, where she just basically crashed her head into the mat. But all of that aside, I mean, they had some good move and counter moves, so that there was the in-ring narrative that they know each other well. And I did appreciate that. Again, just because they had some level of history with each other, it was an easy way to fill in. Now it looks like Genesis at time is calling spots right in front of the camera, but outside of that, we can let that slide. So anyway, let's get to where the match kind of makes its conclusion, shall we? So at one point in time, we get Scott Parker, who sets Genesis down, and she puts her in the X choke. And then Genesis has to work hard, and she bridges herself up, gets a nice reversal in, and she then gets the X choke in on Scott Parker. That carries on. Parker's trying to struggle to get free. She does like a little roll through and gives a kick to the side of Genesis' head to get out of that. Couple of moves in, and then we look like we're getting Scott Parker going for the same move that finished off Sugar, right? Genesis charges in. Scout hooks her by the wrist. We're really smooth. Hooks in a cravat. Looked like she's trying to go for that float over into the side DDT. I believe that's what it was at the time. My only, not complaint, but I wish that she had established that as a finish to where the tension of, ooh, can she get it in, work. Part of the reason I say that is because one of the guys at the job, he didn't understand what he was doing, even though he had seen her week in and week out. He didn't understand that she was going for a finish because there had not been any training of the crowd to understand that this was her attempt to finish off the match. I really wish that she and others in WoW established the finish that when they attempt to go for it, there's a tension that's being kind of related to the viewing audience. But as it was, she tried to go for her finish, or what we allege to be her finish. Genesis kicks her legs out from underneath her, or more or less, reverses it into a full Nelson, hits in a full Nelson slam. 1, 2, 3. That's it. She's done. Scout Parker's finished. I am at least somewhat not impressed, but I'm somewhat pleased that Scout Parker at least got a few wins before we got to this point. She ain't had many because she was on a full-on losing streak, but she has had some wins leading into this point. So I was all right. That might it took away the instantaneous feel of, okay, well, we know Scout Parker's going to lose. And so it made the match enjoyable, which is great. It's great that they were able to make it enjoyable based on that, whether they intended to do it or not. But as that finishes up, Genesis gets the microphone after the match, and she starts cutting the same promo. And this is where I was like, okay, I could have did without this. At least half of it. Because now she's, David McClain, I have a problem and I want to talk to you. I mean, I'm paraphrasing. So she's talking to David McClain, but she's looking at the camera, and every so often she's veering over looking at him. Which I was like, look, just turn towards him and somebody get the camera so they could see her talking to him instead of having to talk to the hard cam. But she delivers content better than most of her colleagues, but the problem is that she's on repeat mode for months. It's been the same thing. I deserve a title shot. Somebody cheated me, fill in the blank who and how. Give me a title shot. This is, whatever. It's been the same thing. At this stage, especially now, it's time to move on. How many more times can we get this? How many more times can it just be, David McClain, when am I going to get a title shot? How many more times can we do that? She's had it. She's had the opportunity. I mean, talk about in their kayfabe universe, she's had the opportunity a couple of times. Whether that be the Battle Royal, whether that be the number one contenders match, whether that be the non-title match, whether that be the triple threat, she's had a couple of chances now. And it's like we just don't know what else to do with her other than that. It's time to move her into something else. Personal rivalry, perhaps. Although WoW does not do personal rivalries well. But I'm sorry, that's the cards that Genesis has played, or that's the cards that she's got. So they need to do something else. And I did say there was a portion of this that was good, and the portion of it was that she put Scout Parker over, even though she, talked about her being in exile, and I didn't necessarily care for that. I was like, you put me right back in exile, taking on my former teammate Scout Parker, even though she's gotten tougher. I was like, okay, well, look, she gave her some credit, which she should, because you don't want to say that you beat a nobody, and she didn't. She's gotten stronger. But I still beat her, which is, how a heel is supposed to function. Which goes back to the original question, why is this a heel versus heel match? What is she in this thing for? Why are they even signed up to go against each other in the first place? And that's the only thing that makes it even remotely palatable, is that there's some history there. But I do need her to move on, get out of this thing. If she ain't won the title, or she ain't got a title shot by now, I'm tired of this. And I can imagine I'm not the only one. It's time to rotate somebody else into this spot. The next segment is the promo for the twin versus twin main event. Like I said before, that's the selling point, is largely that is just twins fighting each other. Who cares? Segment after that, Sibley Scoles. She's selling the main event. She does a voiceover for WoW's good old revisionist history. And they even recap, even in the recap, even when they have full editing control, even in the recap, they don't provide a lot of reason why the twins should be at each other's throats in the first place. Now, we know what took place at the end, and we'll get to that. But still, at this point in the show, you're not supposed to know that. At this stage, looking at this video package, you're supposed to think that they have some issues with each other, and these two have just been talked into having a match because we need to beat each other up in order to save the Fab Four. That doesn't even make sense by any stretch. The next segment, Lana Star, Penelope Pink, and HollySwag come out the ringside, and Lana cuts a promo on the future of the Fab Four. This is like Lana's being shady, which is fine and good. She's a manager. She should have that. But that's her shadiness should have been between the teams. It should have been between Penelope Pink and HollySwag and Miami Sweet Heat, and she should have been presented a reason to turn her back on her most winningest team. That's never been established. It's never been established why Lana Star chose the other two. It hasn't been established why Penelope Pink would suddenly be perfectly okay with trying to dismantle Miami Sweet Heat through manipulation. These are questions that have just not been answered. But as this is going on, McClain puts over Lana, saying she's done it all. I was like, all right. I guess in WoW's universe, she has. I wrote following this promo, I can appreciate what they're trying to do, just not how they're getting there. And McClain cannot shut up during promos. And that's going to come into play at the end of this thing also. But we'll get there. So the next segment, the main event of the evening, Laurie Carlson versus Lindsey Carlson. Twins walk out separately. The other Fab Four members are already there. And it's, I guess, pointed out that there's a little bit of a difference in their look. As Laurie comes out in black and Lindsey comes out with the standard pink. This match is basically technical. And the commentators are trying to give it some level of gravitas. Like trying to make this out to be some sort of big deal. And talking about issues that they had since they were babies. I was like, come on. Again, I can appreciate what they're trying to do, just not necessarily how they were doing it. This match just did not have enough meat on it for me to care. Now, I can't speak for everybody else. Somebody out there probably looked at this like, man, this is great. This is the most amazing technical wrestling match I've ever seen in my life. Why do I say that? Because somebody always says that on WoW's social media, video, YouTube, whatever. Somebody there always says it. This is amazing. I don't care what the match is. There's always somebody that says, this is amazing. So I don't know if you can necessarily take that and hold it up as a standard bearer of opinion. But anyhow, they tried to get this and establish this as some sort of beef. Nothing in this match really gave you that. It just came off as, and I don't want to be insulted, but this came off like a training school match. That's how this looked. It didn't look like there was any sort of angle being worked, in my opinion. Didn't look like they have any sort of issues. They didn't even technically wrestle aggressively. And when I say technically wrestle aggressively, what I mean by that is within their technical wrestling, there was no aggressiveness in the lockups, in the holds, and the cranking down and so on and so forth. It was just a standard wrestling match rather than a beef. Now, I'm sure there are some people like, well, it wasn't supposed to be a beef. Well, okay, that might be. But they didn't present it like it was even close if they were trying to get the audience to believe that. And I can go with the idea and I can go with the story that, okay, they didn't really want to do this to begin with. So going back to my friend at work, because he had some questions. And the first thing he was asking as he was watching this, because he asked, like, so why are they wrestling each other? And I explained to him, like, okay, well, they're wrestling each other because allegedly these two have manipulated them into having this match. I was like, all right, well, they're supposed to be mad at each other? I was like, because I don't see that. I'm like, well, yeah, they don't seem to be mad at each other. So what's the point of this? I wish I could tell you that they were being aggressive or mean or mad at each other. I said maybe they already knew that they weren't going to wrestle each other angrily. They were just going to have the match. It's like, well, if they weren't going to be mad at each other based on the idea that these two manipulated, then why are they having a match at all? I mean, and it went on and on like that. Like any answer I had that I was trying to look at it from the point of view of WoW. But anything that I said, he's like, well, why would they do this if that? And it's not like he didn't have a point. If they were aware that they were being manipulated, why did they have the match? I was like, I don't know. I guess so they can set them up. It's like, okay, so if they were going to be set up, were they just going to wait until these two slid them chairs that were conveniently placed for them to do this? I was like, bro, I don't know. When you look at it in those eyes, it doesn't make a lot of sense. The match is fine. Well, let me walk that back a little bit. There are certain elements of the match that are fine, not the entirety. But getting back to it is like there's good question there. If they knew that they were being manipulated, why did they take the match? If they weren't aware that they were being manipulated, why are they wrestling so lenient with each other and just having a technical wrestling match when they're supposed to be mad? If they were just setting up the other two, how are they going to resolve this if they didn't have the steel chairs available to them to stop themselves? I know I'm getting ahead of the program here, but just, I just couldn't not explain that. So all those things came up, and I'm like, I don't know. That's why I say, on the surface of things, WoW is fine, but when you start asking any questions beyond that, it turns into, well, I don't know. I don't know why they did this. It doesn't make any sense why they did that. Why would they have this match if they were, if they weren't aggressive or mean, or they didn't know they were being manipulated? I mean, there's a point in here where it was just like a series of snap mares, and then, goddamn, I don't want to be giving them crap, but they were like moving in quicksand there for a second. They were in slow motion. That's why I said this is like a trainee match. This is the type of match that you see at a wrestling school. And that is not an exaggeration. Like, okay, you're going to have this match. You're going to take your time. Make sure that you do this full. Okay, make sure you, all right, put the hand around it. There you go. It was like somebody was out there telling them what to do. So I don't know what this amazing match that some of these fans are calling out. And I like the Carlsons, but I honestly think that there are times they've been pushed beyond their experience level. They've been positioned as the top team in WoW. And yes, they do have some good moves and technical form and all that good stuff like that, but it didn't seem as if all of that was showing through here. And there were points where there was just holes in the work, particularly when we get put up onto the top rope. Like that just looked like if there was ever a point in this match where there was just open cooperation, that reeked of it. I'm going to wait here in the corner until you come over here and get me, and then I'll just jump off of your shoulders and we'll have our Hurricanrana spot. Like Lindsey charges in and Laurie gets caught the elbow and then she walks around like, oh, what happened? I mean, just those moments, and she clearly is just getting up on her shoulders. It just was so methodical. That's a nice way to put it. It had a very deliberate, methodical pace that, in my opinion, belonged in a training school. So getting past all this, I mean, they did have a point in the match where, all right, Lindsey fires up and gives her clothesline like, oh, I can't believe I just did that. That type of thing. And that might have been the most aggressive act that took place in the course of the match. I'm going out sequence. So let's get to the end. So the thing that we haven't talked about here is that Swag, Pink, and Star have stayed at ringside during the duration of this match. Swag goes towards one side of the ring. Pink is on the other. And they are rooting the individual sisters on. This is the point that, my buddy CeeLo at work was questioning me about. I was like, well, if they hadn't done this, where were they going to go? If they didn't have this particular spot that took place here, I was like, what exactly were they going to do with each other? That was going to unveil that they knew all along, or that they weren't going to turn on each other, or whatever the case may be. And I was like, I don't know. So we get to the double clothesline spot. They knock each other down. Not out, but they knock each other down. And while they go down, HollySwag and Penelope Pink both reach in the ring and grab these brand new steel chairs that look like they just got them out of the Home Depot that just happened to be there on opposite sides of the ring, perfectly placed for both of these two to use against each other. And Swag gives a steel chair to Lindsey, and Pink gives a steel chair to Laurie, and they're like, all right, use it. And so they get the chairs, and for whatever reason, HollySwag and both Penelope Pink get up on the apron to try to encourage this action. Again, why Penelope Pink is now completely fine with trying to manipulate / destroy her stablemates of the last, 3 years or 2.5. I don't know. We've not unveiled that, and I guess they're not gonna. So they get the chairs, and they get up, and they look at each other, and they get ready to take a swing, and then they stop mid-motion. And then they turn around and hit Pink and Swag. Pink, who took a great goddamn bump off the apron. I mean, rolled off of that thing backwards. I'm like, whoa. That looked like it hurt. I mean, Swag, yeah, she took the shot in the head, but she just looked like she kind of jumped down. Not to negate her bump. I just was more impressed with Pink's. So they do that. I'm not sure what Lindsey was doing following this, because after they turn and hit the two of them, Lindsey turns like she's going to hit her sister still. Like, well, why? I think you established that y'all don't want to do this. And then they drop the chairs, and they look like they're about to cry, and they go over there and give each other a hug, and the people on the front row are like, hey, love is in the air. So, I don't know. They hug. McClain yells the results on the mic because, the ring announcer's voice was apparently lost. And the match is declared a no contest. I wrote down, well, what was this match for? I know it was for. Look, I just termed it as this, and this is not an official term, but I just call it was a bump in the road match. That's all. It was a bump in the road match. It didn't mean anything, didn't forward anything. You could have did without it. You probably could have done this later on and, got better results if you were really trying to get something from it. It served no purpose beyond just having a match in between where they were ultimately going to go. That is why I call it is a bump in the road match. They could have driven around this bump and you'd have been perfectly fine. You would not have missed this thing whatsoever. I promise you. So they did this, and it just felt like a long way around to get to the match that, could have had a proper build. That match being Miami Sweet Heat versus Pink and Swag. Which is, yes, another way to keep Miami Sweet Heat within orbit of the titles. The last 3 years, That's where it's been kind of rotating. So after this, we get a promo for next week's main event, which is going to be a barn burner. Classmasters versus Paola Mayfield. One of those two people will be your champion. That is why WoW's in the place that it's at. That amongst other things. We come back from that into a segment where Lindsey and Laurie are having the aftermath promo. And here is where it really takes a downturn. Not because of them necessarily. And I want to be clear, I am not under any circumstances saying that either one of them are ever going to win some sort of Emmy for their promo or emotional content or, whatever the case may be. That is not going to happen. And I honestly think that they'd probably do a better job if they spoke less. Like if you were really trying to sell the fact that they were from Miami or whatever, because look, the longer they talk, it makes it very clear that M2 ain't nowhere from Miami. Now, I knew that already, but hearing them speak at length really illustrated the point. But this promo is meant to be emotional, and we have talked about David McClain having an issue talking through things, talking through the promos, addressing people while they're in the middle of stuff, talking through the vignettes or backstage scenes and stuff like that. And you can argue that, okay, well, him doing that here and there isn't going to be a problem. Might be a little annoying. You might not want to hear it or whatever the case may be, but, oh well. Right? Not my cup of tea. But it probably has not been as nearly as egregious as it was right here. Like this moment right here is the prime illustration that shut up. He just could not help it. Like I said, this was meant to be emotional or drive some point home. The whole thing that they were going on is like, and I don't want to get into necessarily the content of it because some of that was a little wonky too. But they go on about their sisters. This is my twin, We've known each other our whole lives, and we'll make sure we're together. People have been trying to break us apart. Now, we've not seen that. It's never really happened on Wild's TV that somebody's tried to break the team apart. Whereas Lindsey is relating to the audience that they've always been trying to, because they know that they can't beat us. Well, again, that's not really happened there. So, whereas it sounded good, the content of that didn't necessarily fit because there's only one person / team that has attempted to do it, and that was their own stablemates. And they address HollySwag specifically. I don't know why they didn't bring up Penelope Pink, but yeah, they address HollySwag specifically. But as this is all going on, Dave McClain is answering them, and he's talking through it, and he's, wow, I can't, this might have made him stronger, Nigel. And I was like, God damn it, just shut up, bro, shut up. And he just could not do it. Couldn't do it. This one thing, which should have been your lasting impression, the thing that you left the show with, that these sisters who, and let me be clear, I did not like the angle. Like I said, this angle was worthless. But these two sisters that were being manipulated against each other saw the light and they chose not to fight each other because blood's thick in the water, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This was supposed to be the payoff moment for that, at least. And kept talking. kept talking. I mean, how are you supposed to listen to that? And then feel like these two cut a reasonable promo or got you engaged or involved when he is carrying on and on and on and on. The plus side here is that they didn't come off as stupid baby faces or stupid heels or just stupid, period. Whereas weeks of television would lead you to believe that these two were just idiots. Like, what do you mean she said that about me? I'm getting fat. What you just said, I look great. You know, that. And then it leads to a match which, like I said, I don't know why that would even cross anybody's mind that this would be the way to solve our problems. That for the good of the Fab Four, you two need to wrestle each other. Never mind that you just tried to smack HollySwag in the head, but, you know, you two. But this was just awful. The promo, you can get past the entire show. The promo, not because of them, not because of Laurie, not because of Lindsey, because David McClain would not shut up throughout this thing. And anybody that doubts that, go find that promo and listen to it. It's out there somewhere. I know they had it on their Instagram. Find that promo and listen to it. If you did not, because, you know, they never put the promos or the segments or the backstage stuff on their YouTube channel for whatever reason. I don't know why they don't do that. But find it. Find the promo and then say, hey, no, this is perfectly fine. I defy somebody to tell me that him talking through this thing was, oh, well, that's not a big deal. This should have been their spotlight moment. And not only did that happen, but he pretty much yanked the rug away from them having this moment, and then the camera's got to come on him, and he's got to do the close. It's like, imagine if 1990s Vince McMahon was there when they did the pipe bomb promo, and then he just got up after CM Punk finished his promo, like, all right, fans, so we'll see you next week on the WWF Raw, the greatest wrestlers. It takes away from the moment. There is such a thing as letting the scene breathe. He didn't let it breathe. He smothered it. And I know no one there is going to be able to do anything about it. I know no one there is going to be able to address him. I know no one's there is going to be able to fix it or change it. But what they need to do is understand that moments like that, when he does things like this, it drags it down. I'm sorry, it does. And he's probably tone deaf to that scenario. But he drags it down when he does stuff like that. He took what was potentially a heartfelt moment for Wow's TV and turned it into just another week of television for Wow. By getting the camera on him and, all right, fans, it's going to be a good, just yelling at the end of the show and, you know, taking away whatever moment / emotion that they were trying to create. He just ended that. There needs to be, he'll probably never address it. And he'll probably never recognize it. But it needs to be understood, at least amongst his roster. They just need to accept the fact that there are times, I won't say all the time, but there are times when David McClain does not help his own show. He drags the show down when he does things like that. Whereas you might have had you a moment that could have been utilized or replayed or traded around in clips and this, that. Maybe instead what it turned into was a David McClain spot. Because he talked through it and it ended on him. And as so long as he is tone deaf to what he does with it, it is never going to change. And I don't expect anybody there to be able to sell him anything, because if they do, they probably won't even have the job. I'm sure he feels like that was, what are you talking about? This is great. But that's it. I mean, you know, it actually was the show moved along pretty smoothly, except when you got to that. I don't know if I agree with everything that is taking place on the show. I don't know if I like the angles or the storylines that have been presented. But whether I was able to watch the first two matches and enjoy the first two matches or not, that final scene is what just ended it for me. Now, if you feel different, feel free to drop me a line. Let me know something. Oh, that reminds me. Lord Jack, because I don't use his real name, I appreciate you sending me the email, sir. He left me a pretty nice one. What do you got here? I'm going to try to go through this real quick since we got to the end of the show, and then we'll go to the preview for the next one. Lord Jack sent me this. He said he was watching 134. Again, thank you for the email. I was a roller derby official for a while. I spent a moment looking at Veronica's background when she was introduced and was at 90% certain that she never played roller derby and that is simply a part for her character. I am now 100% convinced after the crap interview she did with Sibley a few episodes ago, and now hearing her speak about it at ringside. She might have watched Whip It. I doubt she'd ever attended the game in person. Watching 137, why the hell didn't they do the handicap match with the Beast where it would have actually made sense? Watching 140, what the hell is happening in 2 weeks for him to have a new tux? Oh, I presume that's when the championship match will be done. He's talking about Dave McClain talking about, I'm ordering a tux. It's getting really tiresome that every instance of cheating is resulting in friendly fire at this point. You know, it just clicked in my head is as he said that they would party in Vegas if Paola wins. That thing they did on Fremont Street in Las Vegas. Fremont Street in Las Vegas. That's how I knew that she would win against Santana and that she will likely win the title. Now, I waited for that so I could be able to say that like that. That is a good point. It could be. I don't know. But we'll see. And, that's the most important one, the Las Vegas spot. But you never know with WoW. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if Paola wins the championship. If she does, I don't think it's going to make any sort of difference to WoW or its credibility or viewership. Look, her getting that championship is not going to draw in any more people watching that show. And I can tell you now, the people that started looking at her on reality TV do not give a shit that she is a wrestler. They don't care. So I'm not expecting anything that going to be changed based on that. Anyhow, off to the next thing, and that is the press release. You know, we get these once a week, and haven't seen the episode yet, so let us see exactly what is going to take place on the upcoming episode of WoW. Now, bear in mind, I already talked to you that there have been 2 episodes already where they've pulled a match, so we'll just use the old card subject to change rule. So this is what I've been sent. Season 3, episode 38, Cuffed Chaos, as the season, episode, and title. After ring partner Ashley Blaze is injured, Kara Kai recruits Mighty Mite's Sugar and rising star, the Albanian grappler, Xena Phoenix, who are primed to take down the Tyrant trio of top tier. For Kara Kai, it's not about a title. It's a personal grudge match. After a series of unexpected losses, Santana Garrett continues her crusade to make her way to the top as she takes on the skilled Sylvia Sanchez. The breezy spring break 24/7 crew, Brittnie Bay, Crystal Waters, and Sandy Shore, take on Chainsaw and Daisy Lane, who enlist Fury for the second time to join them in the ring. in order to secure a fair match without any outside interference. Oh, Lord. Abilene Maverick and IQ Superior Samantha Smart are handcuffed to one another while Paola, the Colombian Goat, battles for the coveted Wild World Championship title against the reigning 6'2" champion, the Classman. Oh, boy. All right, I already don't like this. Starting at the top, do we have to keep carrying on about who top tier injured? At ring part, Ashley Blaze is injured. I mean, okay, fine. It would not surprise me if they win, but what will surprise me is if they win the titles. So you know what? I will lean toward the baby faces there cautiously. What was the other one? Santana Garrett and Sanchez. Well, Garrett. Sanchez never wins. Spring Break 24/7. Well, first off, they shouldn't be winning anything. Secondly, Chainsaw should be able to take all three of them on their own. If this match goes beyond a minute between them three, then there's a problem. Like, why on earth would this match be competitive in the least? They showed that they have no staying power whatsoever. And I don't want to hear that, well, they were just trying to put the Classmaster over as being dominant. That match did not show dominance. It showed the incompetence of Spring Break 24/7. That's what it showed. And the Classmaster didn't do anything impressive in that match. I'm sorry. She did not. The kick in the stomach is not enough to hold them down immobile and unconscious. Because I can promise you in this match, at least one of the three is going to take a kick in the stomach and they'll probably get back up and inside of 10 seconds or so. So, no. But, yeah, it's Chainsaw, Daisy Lane, Fury, of course they're winning. If they lose, they should just pack their bags and leave. And as far as this championship match is concerned, I mean, I don't care that Abilene Maverick and Samantha Smart are handcuffed. They didn't even cheat the last time. So what difference does it make? They lost, not they. Mayfield did not win the championship because she hit the referee. And there's not many times that I would agree with some sort of promo that Smart or Classmaster did. But on their Instagram, they have a promo that's pretty much calling that out. Why is she getting the title shot to begin with? She hit the ref. It wasn't by accident. It was fully on purpose. Why is she getting the title shot? It's like we're just going to reward this bad behavior. I mean, for what? So that alone makes me disinterested in this. Never mind the fact that neither one of them are some sort of immaculate worker. I expect this match to be slow. I expect it to be plodding. I expect just because the two of them are handcuffed to each other for them to try to do some nonsense to each other. Like, I'm gonna try to cheat. No, I'm gonna try to cheat. I expect that. And maybe Mayfield will win the championship, but if she does, who cares? I mean, for me, it's just trading off one subpar champion for another. But we'll see. That's what we have in store. I mean, good Lord, that is your main event. Paola Mayfield versus the Classmaster. Who is going to tune in just for that? I'm sure the Wild Faithful is going to tune in regardless. But seriously, if they were trying to sell this to somebody, some other wrestling fan out there, is like, hey, this is the match you want to see for the championship. Their champion, the Classmaster, against Paola Mayfield. This is like a Temu gender flipped version of Logan Paul, and not nearly as good. Logan Paul is annoying, but you cannot say that he ain't good in the ring. You cannot say that. And the fact that he's good only makes him more annoying. Mayfield is just like every other person on that roster. She's mediocre at best. I wanted to like her because I saw that she had some matches outside of, but that, like, her finish is so ridiculous. It's like a grazing tap to somebody's side of the head, and then they got to flip over. Classmaster isn't much better. Hoist you up on my shoulders and just fling you off. And she hasn't established a finish either. Was the choke slam, was the big boot, was the over the shoulder fireman's carry throw. I mean, you don't know which one's what. This is what happens when you don't have to worry about the bottom line. That's all I can say. You do not have to worry about who comes in and who comes out as your champion, and you're making months worth of TV just because you got to fill the content. That's all that matters. So there we go. That's it. That is the full review. I wish I could have said that I wanted to get more in depth with it and call it play-by-play and all that stuff like that, but I just did not have it in me. Matches were fine. It's just not a lot of stuff going on there. That's all. And I do not expect this episode to be any different. So, as we finish this up, please do the YouTube things, like, share, and subscribe. For those of you that are on YouTube, if you're listening to this on any sort of podcast platform, rate, maybe comment. That will help. If for whatever reason you don't know where to find these things, I can't imagine you wouldn't, but you always can go to WPNWrestling.com because everything goes there. All episodes, video, audio, and otherwise, they drop there. And of course, there's the 24-hour a day, 7-day-a-week stream that is showing footage, matches, interviews, etc. Some other things that are not even wrestling related, dating back to 2013. So yeah, there's stuff there to watch, stuff there to listen to. And your support has always kept this thing going. So I appreciate that. And on that note, we will finish it off to say that this is Mr. Green saying that this is Mr. Green saying so long. And we will see you on the next go round. Fingers crossed that the next episode's decent, guys. I'll see you later.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.